6-year-old girl looks like an old woman due to a shocking reason during her birth. When a couple learned they were expecting a child, they had no idea that anything might go wrong with the delivery of their child. They didn't expect to have a baby girl with the Benjamin Button syndrome, which causes her to age faster than normal. Isla Kilpatrick Screeton was born with a syndrome that caused her to appear older than she was. The newborn girl was welcomed on February 2, 2017, weighing 5 pounds and nearly suffocating after being born at 36 weeks in Leicester Royal Hospital. It took a month for her parents, Kyle and Stacey, to be able to bring her home. However, shortly after leaving, she became blue and had to be brought back to the hospital for treatment. The 3-month-old child was resuscitated after undergoing an emergency procedure. In October 2017, the infant girl was diagnosed with mandibular facial dysastosis, a disorder that produced anomalies in the coloring of the skin and bone growth. Stacey had to quit her teaching assistant position to be a full-time carer for her child. According to a genetic expert, their daughter was the only one in the world with the gene that created the mutation. Isla's mother observed that, despite the rarest diseases having support systems, she and her spouse lacked them. The little girl had a disorder called Benjamin Button syndrome, which had started before her birth and was caused by the accelerated aging of her cells. The reference was to the character of the same name in a 2008 film, who was born as an elderly man and aged backward to infancy before perishing. Stacey and Kyle were fighting for Isla's life. Stacey reported that after Isla was born and the umbilical cord was cut off, the baby couldn't keep her oxygen levels above 60% when they needed to be at 90%. Nurses battled for what seemed like hours to keep the infant's airways open. The mother of 2 remembers how exhausting and unpleasant it had been for her and her partner to fall asleep. For the first 5 days of her existence, the little girl, who appeared to age backward, was incubated and placed in an induced coma. Stacey revealed how she and Kyle were unable to touch their kid, and how their second daughter Paige, who was 5 at the time, was barred from seeing her smaller sister in order to protect her. Nurses fed the tiny girl as she lost weight, and she spent 2 weeks in critical care before being released to her family. Isla had to be bottle-fed through a nasal tube. Her parents had to call an ambulance 6 days after she was brought home because she began sputtering, coughing, and turning blue while being bottle-fed. Isla's airway was cleared in the hospital, and she stayed for 2 weeks before being admitted again for breathing difficulties 12 weeks later. Since no one else had the mutant gene that caused deficiency, medical doctors couldn't tell the parents how their daughter would proceed. Only 7 other people had her illness, but none of them had that specific mutation. The small girl's mobility deteriorated with time, and she had to use a wheelchair and also had hearing loss, which necessitates the use of hearing aids. Stacey was looking for a new place to live in February 2023 since her privately leased property was no longer a good match. The caring parent even contacted the city government to see if they might help them locate a new house, but they've been on a waiting list for 5 years. The mother of 2 felt she couldn't care for her family or offer a secure atmosphere for them to grow in, as she had always hoped. Her house had several steps, and her youngest daughter's room was too tiny to accommodate a bed. It was also impossible to fit in her medical equipment. Stacey claimed that despite everything, Isla remained her cheerful self. In 2020, footage of the small child drawing a love heart for her mother went viral. Videos of her dancing in the yard went viral when she was separated from COVID-19 with her family owing to her uncommon ailment. Stacey was initially concerned about Isla. In order to keep kids happy and engaged while they were isolated, Stacey put up a family website on which they started shooting videos. People from all around the world messaged them about how fantastic their clips were, but the family wasn't posting for fame. "We're just being ourselves," Paige's father said, "and we don't modify or act up for the videos." He thought their aim was clear in their videos, which was why people enjoyed them since it was family fun. Isla was still coping with her illness at age 6, but she was also integrating into society. Stacy said that the physical toll on her was obvious, and carrying her daughter around and attempting to get her inside the home in a wheelchair wasn't ideal. "I feel like a failure," she said. Isla was unable to attend courses during the peak of the COVID-19 outbreak due to her limited mobility. This year, though, she was in year 1 and a full-time student at Granby Primary School. Stacy described her daughter as being so confident that other youngsters raced towards her instead of running away from her. The mom was proud of her daughter and delighted that she had settled very well at school, despite the fact that it was a potentially hostile atmosphere.